My wife cheated while I worked. Double shifts to pay our mortgage, so I sold the house, took the money, and watched her world burn without me. I'm a 31-year-old guy, and I thought I was finally living the dream. For the first time in my life, I felt like everything was lining up. Steady job, a woman who loved me, and a small house that we called ours. Emma and I used to drive past that house months before we bought it, pointing at the white porch and laughing about how it looked like something out of a movie. When we finally signed the papers, I remember her eyes glistening as she said, "This is where we'll start our forever." And I believed her. God, I really did. The house wasn't big, just 2 bedrooms and a creaky staircase, but every flaw felt like a promise of what we'd build together. I'd come home after late shifts, and even when I was exhausted, the sight of her curled up on the couch with a blanket felt like peace. She'd ask, "Did you eat?" and hand me leftovers, always smiling like I was her whole world. I thought those were the moments that made all the overtime worth it. When our first mortgage payment came due, I picked up extra shifts at the factory, 12-hour days, sometimes doubles. Emma told me I was overdoing it, but she said it with that soft, proud tone. "You're doing this for us," she'd whisper, kissing my forehead before I left for work. I wore those words like armor. Every sore muscle, every sleepless night, it all felt like investment in our future. The guys at work used to joke that I was married to my job. Maybe they were right. But I thought love meant sacrifice, that real men showed devotion through hard work. I didn't realize that while I was breaking my back to build our dream, Emma was quietly starting to build her own, one that didn't include me. And back then, I was too blinded by hope to see it coming. It started small. Little things I told myself didn't matter. Emma began going out more, saying she needed a break from the house, or that she was meeting the girls for dinner. I didn't question it. I figured she deserved it. She'd spent months decorating, making our place a home while I worked. So when she started dressing up more, wearing perfume I hadn't smelled before, I brushed it off as her wanting to feel confident again. "You look beautiful," I'd tell her, half asleep, as she left. She'd smile and say, "Don't wait up." But over time, the warmth between us began to fade. Dinner conversations turned into awkward silences. She'd scroll through her phone while I talked about work, nodding absently, eyes somewhere else. I tried to be understanding. I thought maybe she felt lonely because I was always gone. So I suggested we plan a weekend getaway. She laughed softly and said, "You can't even get one Saturday off without your boss calling." That stung because she wasn't wrong, but it was the way she said it. Not sad, not frustrated, just cold. At night, I'd wake up to the faint glow of her phone lighting the room. When I'd ask what she was doing, she'd quickly say, "Just scrolling." Sometimes she'd leave the room to take calls, claiming it was her sister. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. Because if I didn't, it meant the foundation I'd built my life on was cracking, and I wasn't ready to face that. Still, there were moments that gnawed at me. The smell of cologne on her jacket that wasn't mine, the sudden habit of showering right after coming home, the way she started locking her phone. But love has this cruel way of making you defend the person hurting you, and for a while, I kept defending Emma, even from the truth that was already sitting across the dinner table, smiling back at me. It was a Tuesday afternoon when everything started to shift. I was halfway through a coffee break at work when my coworker Mark mentioned seeing Emma downtown. He said it casually, like it was nothing. "Hey, I saw your wife yesterday at that new cafe on Main. Didn't know you liked that place." I chuckled and said I didn't. Then he added, "Oh, maybe she was meeting a friend or something." She wasn't alone. The way he said it, the quick glance away, the awkward tone, it stuck to me like tar. I spent the rest of my shift trying to convince myself it meant nothing, but my stomach wouldn't stop twisting. When I got home, Emma was humming in the kitchen, making pasta. She looked radiant, almost glowing, and for the first time I couldn't tell if it was happiness or guilt. "Rough day?" she asked, pouring me a drink. "Yeah," I said, watching her move around the kitchen. "Did you go out yesterday?" She froze just for a second before answering. "Yeah, I met up with Claire." "Why?" I smiled, forcing calm. Just wondering. Mark said he thought he saw you downtown. She laughed, a little too loudly. Oh, Mark must need glasses. That night she was unusually affectionate. She climbed into my lap, kissed me deeply, and whispered, I love you, you know that. It should have comforted me, but instead it made my skin crawl with confusion. It felt like she was hiding something behind every touch. Later, when she fell asleep, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her phone lighting up with a notification I couldn't see. My chest felt tight, my breath shallow. I didn't have proof, but I had that gut-deep feeling, the kind that screams even when you try to silence it. And that night, for the first time, I realized I might not just be tired from work. I might be tired from loving someone who was already gone. It was raining the night I finally decided to follow her. I told myself I wasn't doing it out of paranoia, just curiosity. But deep down, I knew I was chasing the truth I'd been too scared to face. She told me she was meeting an old college friend for dinner. Her tone was casual, her eyes steady. I wanted to believe her, but the lie had already started to show through the cracks in her smile. After she left, I waited 15 minutes, grabbed my jacket, and got in my car. I followed from a distance, headlights dimmed, every nerve in my body shaking. My hands were slick on the steering wheel, my heart pounding so loud it drowned out the sound of rain hitting the windshield. When she parked outside a fancy restaurant across town, I saw him. Tall, well-dressed, the kind of man who didn't look like he worked double shifts. She stepped out, adjusted her hair, and he kissed her before they walked in together. I remember gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. The world went quiet, like every sound just stopped existing. I didn't feel anger at first, just a hollow, numbing disbelief. The woman who once kissed me before every shift was now smiling across a candlelit table with someone else. I sat there for 10 minutes watching them laugh like nothing was sacred. I drove away before she came out. I didn't crash, didn't scream, didn't cry. I just drove. Through the rain, through the silence, through the sinking realization that the life I'd built was a lie I'd been paying for. When I finally parked back home, I sat in the dark driveway, staring at the house we'd built, the one I was breaking myself to afford. And for the first time, I didn't see a home. I saw a cage. I spent the next few days in a haze, working, eating, pretending. Every time I looked at Emma, I felt like I was staring at a stranger wearing my wife's face. I wanted to confront her that very night, to scream, to demand answers. But every time I opened my mouth, something in me froze. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was pride. Or maybe I just didn't want to hear her confirm it. Because once she said it out loud, there'd be no going back. Instead, I watched. Quietly. Carefully. I started noticing things I'd missed before. New lingerie tucked in her drawer, Uber receipts that didn't match her stories, and random charges for hotels that must have been billing errors. When I asked, she'd laugh it off, wrap her arms around me and say, "You really need to relax more." That line, "you need to relax," started to feel like poison. It wasn't comfort. It was control. I started memorizing her lies, stacking them like bricks in a wall between us. She'd say she was visiting her sister, but her sister would post pictures from another city. She'd claim she was at yoga, but her mat never left the closet. I kept it all in, every inconsistency, every red flag, because I wanted to be sure. I wanted proof. Not emotion, not assumption. Proof. At night, while she slept beside me, I'd stare at the ceiling, feeling the weight of everything I'd built crashing down in silence. My stomach churned with a sick mixture of love and hate. She'd murmur in her sleep, sometimes smiling, sometimes saying a name I didn't recognize. I'd lie there, gripping the sheets, wondering if she even remembered I was there. I realized something cruel then. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was her cover story. And soon I decided I wouldn't be that for her ever again. The night I discovered the paperwork was the night everything inside me broke. I'd been trying to organize our mortgage documents for tax season, something Emma usually handled because she was better with numbers. But when I opened the file, there was a new set of pages I didn't recognize. Refinance agreement. My name was there, but the signature wasn't mine. It looked close, almost perfect, but I knew every curve of my own handwriting. This wasn't it. My pulse started hammering. I flipped through the pages, scanning line after line until I saw the date. 2 months ago. She'd refinanced the house 2 months ago and never said a word. I called the bank, my voice shaking, pretending I was just verifying details. The woman on the line confirmed everything. Emma had come in with all the documents, verified the joint account, and finalized the process. I felt dizzy, like the floor disappeared beneath me. She hadn't just cheated on me emotionally. She'd financially cut me open. The house I was killing myself to pay for wasn't even ours anymore. It was hers. Or at least that's how she'd set it up. When she came home that night, I sat at the table, the papers spread out like evidence in a crime scene. "Emma," I said quietly, "did you refinance the house?" She blinked, froze for a second, then forced a laugh. "What? No, of course not." I didn't respond, just slid the documents across to her. The color drained from her face. For the first time, I saw something new in her eyes. Not guilt, not fear, just annoyance, like I'd ruined her plan by catching on too soon. She stood up, muttering, "You're overreacting," and walked out before I could say another word. That was the moment something shifted inside me. I stopped being the heartbroken husband, and I became the man who was going to burn her plans to ash. After that night, I stopped reacting. She expected yelling, tears, a scene, but I gave her none of it. I went quiet, cold, calculated. I realized if I wanted to win this war, I had to stop fighting it like a man in love and start thinking like a man with something to lose. So, I played dumb. I apologized for overthinking, told her I'd been stressed, and even suggested we take a break from talking about finances. She smiled, relieved, thinking she'd manipulated me back into my cage. But inside, I was already building the key. I started documenting everything. Screenshots of bank statements, photos of the refinance papers, texts where she slipped up on her alibis. I even placed a small recorder in my car, the same one she occasionally borrowed, and caught her, talking to someone she called baby, hearing her whisper to. Another man through that speaker felt like acid on my skin. Still, I didn't break. I just pressed record again. I found a lawyer. Quietly. I didn't tell anyone, not even my brother. The lawyer explained how I could legally separate our finances, how to protect myself if she tried to take everything. "If you want to leave her, do it smart," he said. "Not emotional, strategic." I nodded. That became my mantra. At home, I played the part of the clueless husband. Cooked dinner, kissed her goodnight, listened as she lied to my face and pretended not to notice. She thought I was weak, desperate to hold on to her. But what she didn't know was that every fake smile, every calm nod, every "I love you too" was a countdown. The man she thought she could use had finally woken up. And soon, she was going to realize just how dangerous quiet men can be. The breaking point came on a Thursday night, one of those evenings where the air feels heavy for no reason. I came home late, exhausted but calm, and found a shiny gift bag sitting on the kitchen counter. Inside was a gold watch, brand new, the kind I couldn't even dream of affording. The receipt was still there. I checked the card. It wasn't for me. It was to someone else. "To James, you make every second worth it. Love, E." My heart didn't even race this time. It just sank, slow and cold, like a stone in water. I sat on the couch holding that note, staring at the handwriting I used to adore. The woman who once cried when I surprised her with flowers was now using our money to spoil another man. I checked our credit card app. She'd maxed it out. Thousands gone. And the payments weren't even to stores I recognized. The lawyer's voice echoed in my head. "Don't confront. Collect." So, I took pictures of everything. The receipt, the card, the transaction history. That night, she came home humming, smelling of expensive cologne that wasn't mine. "Hey," I said quietly, forcing my tone flat. "You're late." She rolled her eyes. "Work dinner. You wouldn't understand." "Yeah," I muttered. "I probably wouldn't." She went upstairs, her heels clicking on the floor like nails in a coffin. I sat there, gripping the edge of the couch, shaking, not from sadness this time, but from clarity. This was my rock bottom, the point where love turned into something else entirely, a cold, sharp purpose. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the window staring out at the streetlight flickering across the driveway, the same one I'd once called our home. By sunrise, I knew what I had to do. No more tears. No more pretending. The next time Emma walked out that door, she'd be leaving behind everything she thought she owned. When people say revenge is a dish best served cold, they never talk about how quiet it feels. There's no music, no thrill, just precision. I woke up that Monday and went to the realtor's office. I still legally owned the majority of the house since most payments came from my account. With the refinance documents being fraudulent, my lawyer assured me I had leverage. I told the realtor I wanted the house sold fast, discreetly. No open houses, no signs, just a private sale. He raised an eyebrow but nodded. Cash offer if possible? I said. He smiled. I can make that happen. Over the next few weeks I acted like everything was normal. I still packed her lunch, still kissed her goodbye. Meanwhile, movers came during her work hours taking out everything that was mine. Tools, heirlooms, documents. I left behind just enough to make it look untouched. She never noticed. Too distracted, too busy living her double life. When the sale finally went through, I sat in my car outside the title office, holding the check that represented every hour, every drop of sweat, every lie she'd fed me. I didn't feel victory, not yet, just relief. That night, I went home one last time. The walls felt empty, like the house already knew it was no longer ours. I packed my last bag, left her the divorce papers on the kitchen counter, and placed one small envelope beside it. Inside, copies of the refinance documents, screenshots of her messages, and a single line in my handwriting. You built this lie. I just finished the paperwork. Then I walked out, locking the door behind me for the final time. By the time she realized what had happened, she'd be staring at a sold sign on the lawn and an empty driveway where my car, my heart, and my patience used to be. It took exactly 3 days for the calls to start. First, they were confused. Hey, babe, the Wi-Fi's not working. Then panicked. Where's our stuff? Why's the house empty? I didn't answer a single one. The silence must have felt louder than any scream I could have given her. By the 5th call, her voice cracked. Please, just talk to me. We can fix this. There was no fixing this. She just didn't realize the damage wasn't new. It was simply revealed. A week later, I heard from a mutual friend that Emma had a complete breakdown. The house sale hit her hard. She came home from work to find movers finishing up and a sold sign in the yard. Apparently, she thought it was some mistake. She even called the bank only to be told the funds were already cleared and transferred, legally, to me. She screamed at the agent, demanding to know how I could do this to her. The irony nearly made me laugh. Her affair partner, James, didn't stick around long after that. Once the money, the home, and the illusion of security vanished, so did he. The same man she risked everything for ghosted her without a word. I imagined her sitting alone in that empty driveway, realizing that for once, her manipulation couldn't charm her way out of consequences. She tried texting me again. Long paragraphs about love, confusion, forgiveness, and destiny. But when that didn't work, the messages turned bitter. You'll regret this, she wrote. You can't just erase me. I stared at that text for a long time before deleting it, because the truth was, I hadn't erased her. She'd done that herself, the moment she traded loyalty for lust and partnership for greed. Now, all I had to do was sit back and watch the ashes settle. Her world was finally burning, and I didn't have to light a single match. The aftermath was quieter than I expected. No dramatic confrontations, no shouting matches, just silence, the kind that hums like peace. My lawyer handled the divorce, and with the evidence I'd collected, the forged refinance, the affair, the financial theft, the court didn't need much convincing. Everything that could have gone to her was stripped away legally. The house money stayed with me, and the rest, well, she got exactly what she earned. Nothing. I didn't tell anyone what happened at first, but small towns have big mouths and whispers spread faster than wildfire. Did you hear what Emma did? She cheated on him and tried to steal the house. He sold it right from under her. Brilliant. It wasn't my intention to humiliate her, but once the truth got out, people stopped seeing her as the victim she used to play so well. Her friends distanced themselves. Her coworkers whispered behind her back. Even her family stopped defending her once the documents came to light. One afternoon, I ran into an old neighbor at the grocery store. He chuckled and said, "Heard your ex is renting a small apartment on the east side. Guess karma's got a good aim." I didn't respond, just smiled politely. But inside, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Not the kind that comes from revenge, but from knowing the truth finally spoke for itself. Emma tried reaching out one last time. A handwritten letter. It smelled like her old perfume. She wrote about missing the way things used to be, about how she made mistakes and wanted to talk. I didn't even open the last page. I folded it neatly and dropped it in the trash. Because some stories don't deserve a sequel, especially when the ending is already perfect. It's been almost a year since the day I walked out of that house, and sometimes I still catch myself waking up early, instinctively checking the clock like I'm late for another double shift. But then I remember. I don't live that life anymore. The exhaustion is gone, replaced with something I never thought I'd have again. Calm. My new apartment is small but quiet. The walls don't echo with arguments or half-truths. It's not fancy, but it's mine. Every inch of it feels earned, and for once, I'm not working for someone else's dream. I started going to therapy, not because I was broken, but because I wanted to understand why I stayed broken for so long. My therapist told me something that stuck. You didn't lose your wife. You lost your illusion. That line hit harder than anything Emma ever said. She was right. The version of her I loved never existed beyond the story I told myself. I've learned to enjoy small things again. Cooking for one, quiet drives at night, hearing laughter without wondering if it's at my expense. Some nights I sit by the window, watching the city lights shimmer, and think about how different life feels when peace isn't tied to another person's approval. Last month, I saw Emma at a gas station. She looked tired, older somehow. We locked eyes for half a second. She gave me a sad smile, maybe expecting something. Forgiveness, recognition, I don't know. But I just nodded, paid for my gas, and drove off. There was no hate left, no need for closure, because when you finally stop chasing the person who burned your home, you realize peace isn't about rebuilding what you lost. It's about loving the quiet you found in the ashes.